Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here, and we're going to be doing a quick little discussion on Leeds United and why I'm so impressed with their transfer window. I feel like they had a huge task ahead of them this summer. They had to replace their two biggest players, their two most important players, you could say, maybe alongside Patrick Bamford, but definitely their two most important players with Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. And they also nearly, nearly got relegated last season. I feel like it was a tough task ahead of them. And in my opinion, I feel like they've done quite well with, that tough task. But when you really look at, the kind of the transfer window that they have had, some people are very skeptical. They've gone for some players outside Europe's top five leagues. They definitely have gone for some, for some gambles. But if they do work out, I feel like it is a very impressive, transfer window, which is why I think they're kind of, maybe one of the winners of this transfer window with what they've had to do, with what they've had to kind of, recover from. But with Leeds, of course, this kind of, inspired this video inspired from when we were comparing them to Forest, Nottingham Forest, kind of window. And I feel like both have had exceptional windows. But when you look at Leeds is here, Aronson, probably maybe paid a bit too much for, but we'll break down why that's a great signing. Luis Sinisterra, I think, is a great deal for the price. Tyler Adams, again, a great steal for the price. Christensen, we'll definitely talk about, but also a great steal. Mark Roca will be interested in. And then Darko Giabi, I believe, is a Man City kind of talent. I'm not sure how much he'll play. Leeds United fans, do let me know what sort of he is. But again, kind of reiterating this fact, you guys had to replace your two most important players. And the first one you had to replace was Calvin Phillips. And you did that via Mark Roca and Tyler Adams. It looks like, you basically did that according to Transfermarkt. Leeds basically replaced them for around replaced Phillips for less than 27, less than 28 million pounds, which is really impressive. When they went with Mark Roca, you could kind of see how he's the main sort of replacement for Calvin Phillips. He's more kind of a deep lying playmaker. He can kind of spray the passes, kind of shift the tempo, kind of like Calvin Phillips did. But then you also have Tyler Adams, who's sort of kind of a all over the place kind of player. He can be as a right wing back, he can play as a center mid, play maybe alongside, Mark Roca and kind of help protect him back there. I feel like, instead of just going with one replacement for Calvin Phillips, Leeds United cleverly went with two. And I think the Tyler Adams, kind of inclusion plus Mark Roca makes me really confident with how they've gone about maybe replacing Calvin Phillips. And they didn't do it for too much money either, which is, again, it won't really be probably seen as, really a huge loss. And I really doubt that there's much risk in these. I see Mark Roca playing well in the Premier League, and I see Tyler Adams playing well in the Premier League. The other replacement, of course, they had to make was Rafinha, and they went with Luis Sinisterra and Brendan Aronson as maybe the replacements for those two. With Sinisterra, of course, he's maybe the main replacement as he is more of an out-and-out winger. He plays, I think, primarily on the left-hand side, can play on the right, but he was really clutch for Feyenoord in the Europa Conference League, and I think that's probably primarily why Leeds kind of were attracted to him, is because he did have good numbers, in the Dutch league or in the Eredivisie. But when it came to the Conference League, Sinister was actually really carrying, Feyenoord through some competitions, and he was showing to be a very lethal finisher. And he clearly, I think, in preseason has, looked pretty good. I've seen some of the highlights, and from what I was able to tell, it looks like he could maybe hit the ground running with Leeds. Again, only paid 22.5 million pounds, for the player. I don't really feel like that's paying too much for him. I know he's coming from the Dutch league, and a lot of players from the Dutch league do kind of make a very rough transition into the Premier League. And sometimes it takes a bit of time for them to mold. Sometimes it just never even works at all. But when it comes to Sinisterra, I think this could be an interesting Rafinha replacement. But they didn't just go with Sinisterra. They also went with Brendan Aronson. And with Brendan Aronson, you paid around 29.5 million pounds, perhaps paid a bit too much there. But what I like about that transfer is he's more of kind of a creative midfielder that can play through the middle. I feel like that's what you guys really need, is some sort of player that, can be able to stand, in front of the striker, Bamford, and be able to play him in behind, be able to receive the ball with his back to goal, receive the ball, carry it through the midfield, just someone who can play comfortably as a number 10 through the middle. I'm not sure if Leeds really had that last season. Sure, you could say Rodrigo, uh, maybe Forshaw. I feel like I'm missing somebody here, but couldn't really point out too many players that was able to really comfortably play through the middle as a playmaker and be a number 10 for you guys. And Brendan Aronson has looked really good with Adeyemi, before, having a pacey striker in front of him. I feel like Bamford, Sinisterra in front of him could look really good, or Rodrigo or Daniel James. I feel like Aronson is going to slot into that team very well. But let's look at maybe some potential formations, for Leeds United. Again, we're talking about that 4-2-3-1 from before. You could see, the likes of Christensen, maybe come in as a right-sided center back. I feel like he'll play primarily as a center back or as a right back. I don't really see him playing as anything else. He could be, a really interesting one when you also look at the fact that, Ailing is maybe more comfortable as a right back in this team than maybe as a center back. And then Christensen can be that powerful, but very, kind of aggressive right sided center back. You could put Liam Cooper alongside him. You could put Pascal Stroik. But when it comes to left back, I'm maybe a bit confused there. I guess it's only Junior Firpo that you guys do have available to you. That's actually maybe of any real quality, but I could be mistaken. Sinistera then out wide. You have Aronson through the middle and Bamford in front of him. Harrison, maybe you could move him out wide, to the right. You could put Daniel James out there too. And then Daniel James, or Tyler Adams, and then Mark Roca alongside him as well. You have 4-4-2 or 4-2-2, which is a very common formation from any kind of manager that came from, kind of Leipzig and that kind of Red Bull system. I don't really envision, Jesse using this too much, but, with this, again, you can maybe play Aronson out on the right. He can kind of drift inside when he likes to, but also put in a good ball, from the right hand side when he does drift in. You have Bamford, of course, maybe alongside Rodrigo up top. That could be kind of spicy with Harrison then playing out wide. Mark Roca, Tyler Adams holding it down in the midfield. And then you have maybe Robin Koch, maybe going into the team. You have a lot of depth actually out there. And then with Christensen being maybe more of a defensive kind of right back for you guys to help out Robin Koch. So I really like that, sort of, versatility that you can get maybe with Christensen. When you need a more defensive right back, perhaps you go with him. When you want someone that can burst forward and, be a bit more venturous, you go with maybe someone like, a Luke Ayling. If you were to switch to a three in the back, which he did experiment with, Jesse Marsh with Leipzig most recently, you could go for maybe the 3-4-1-2. You have maybe Harrison playing as a wingback. I'm not sure if that's actually possible, but I feel like he works hard enough to be able to do it. Tyler Adams, again, can play as a right wingback for you guys. Robin Koch could maybe, jump into midfield alongside Mark Roca, have a really strong but tall midfield there. Pascal Stroik, Liam Cooper, Christensen maybe forming the back three there. Aronson probably absolutely would thrive in this system. And then being able to play through the likes of Rodrigo and Bamford. This one I actually feel like you probably won't go for Leeds, but could be really an interesting one and one that I could see as being very effective. Last, could be a 3-4-3, but I really doubt it. I just don't know if you guys had the right sort of defensive, kind of capabilities to, get away with the 3-4-3. But you could go for it here. Maybe you put Ailing, wide, do Adams and Roca in the middle. Daniel James is a hardworking right winger. Sinistera out left. Bamford up top. Firpo, and then kind of the rest of the back three that we've seen from before. But Leeds United fans, let me know what you think of these signings, and let me know what you think of my assessment of your guys' window. I think it's been a fantastic window for Leeds United, and I probably go to say that they've had, probably one of the most positive, or maybe you could say they're one of the winners of this transfer window with what they've had to, do. They really didn't have a position where they could, kind of build on, a good season. They had a lot of stuff they had to replace. They had a lot of problems they had to deal with. And if you ask me, I think they did pretty well with dealing with those problems. But Leeds United fans, as well as Flat Cap Army, let me know what you think of my assessment. Feel free to dig into me. A lot of people don't like Leeds United's transfer window, but do let me know what you think of my assessments. Hit that like on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you are new to the channel, especially if you want to see more videos like this one, thinking about doing Nottingham Forest next. But everybody, as always, I will be seeing you.